Hello friends, I'm Kendra Winchester. Welcome back to my channel. And this is Dylan, who's butt floof. You just saw him walk past. And then Gwen is somewhere over on the couch. Once again, I've put away their very loud, crunchy toys, but they still have access to squeak toys. So I just want to prepare all of you. Thank you all for your wonderful comments about their sound editions. They are always here, obviously, with me, and they love to be involved, especially Dylan, who's been doing this a lot longer than Gwen. Gwen's strategy is still just nap through it, except when she gets bored. I digress. Well, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be going over one of my plans for 2024 because I need to wrap all of these books. So here is the plan. I have these 24 books that I'm going to be telling you about today. There are 12 nonfiction, 12 fiction. They are all from the year 2019 or earlier. This is a backlist reading challenge, and I am going to be playing a game with myself all through 2024 to try to get all of these books read, because all of these books are my TBR. This is not my actual library. That is in the room. That is the library. This is my living room where all of my TBR sits, and I can see it from my usual place as the, Victorian lady wasting away on her chaise in my living room. So I am choosing books that I really want to read that are backlist, and I'm going to be telling you about them today, and I'm going to wrap all of them in similar wrapping paper. I will have no idea what's in what, and I will choose 2 books each month, beginning of each month, to read. I will open them, preferably on camera, and we will see if I can read them by the end of the month. Theoretically, I'm supposed to get rid of the book if I haven't read them, but I am going to put some little saves in there because who knows how I will be feeling, if I will be behind on work reading, who knows, but this is a game. So if I'm not enjoying it, I may stop doing it, but I really want to read all of these books. I spent a few hours choosing them all, so it'll be a great time. So I'm going to go through all of them, tell you about them, tell you what I know about them, if I know anything, or maybe I just love the author, who knows. I feel like a lot of us have been discussing recently how when we love an author, we love one of their books, we go out and we find all of their backlists and we buy all the backlists. We still have only read one of those books, but now we own all of their books. And I am that way with several authors, as you will begin to realize as you see their names repeat in these book stacks. All right. That's the plan. It's my big backlist challenge of the year, and everyone is thrilled. Okay, so we're gonna do nonfiction first because they are closer. All right, so Ann Patchett. I read Ann Patchett. I read Commonwealth first. I didn't really like it. But then I read her nonfiction and I loved it. I love her nonfiction. And I love Tom Lake, which I can't remember if I reviewed or not, but it's one of the best audiobooks this year because of Meryl Streep. Ugh. Anyway, this is the story of A Happy Marriage by Ann Patchett. This is essays of hers. I bought this over a year ago after I read These Something Days. I'll put a cover. After I read that essay collection, I went back to find her other nonfiction, and I just love her nonfiction. I think I might like her nonfiction more than her fiction. Again, I love Tom Lake. I have The Dutch House somewhere around here, but I'm going to do these first. So this is the next on the list for Ann Patchett, since I am currently collecting her books. The second book I have is The Red Parts by Maggie Nelson. I co-host Book Riot's mystery, thriller, horror, and true crime podcast, really. We cover a wider range of genres than just mysteries and thrillers, but we've been talking a lot about true crime this year, and so I was like, wait, I think I I think I own The Red Parts by Maggie Nelson. I've only read, I think it's The Argonauts that I've read of Maggie Nelson's, and I just don't think I was ready for that book at the time that I read it. I need to reread it and see how Kendra, like 7-8 years later, will feel about it, but I am very interested in reading The Red Parts, which is Maggie Nelson's account of living through her aunt's trial. I'm assuming she attends, but we'll see when we get there. But yes, excited for that one. I feel like The Red Parts and the Bluettes are the ones that are recommended to me most from Maggie Nelson's Backlist, so I'm excited about that. I also have On Freedom, I think is what it's called, but that is a more recent release, and all of these are 2019 or earlier. Speaking of earlier, I Was Told There'd Be Cake, essays by Sloane Crosley. This is supposed to be a humorous essay collection, and Sloane Crosley is really funny. I've read a few of her essays one-off, but never a complete collection, so I am excited for that. Book number 4 is From Scratch by Tembi Locke. This is Attica Locke's sister. Tembi married an Italian man, and he moved over to the US with her, and he got cancer. And that is what this memoir is all about. It was made into a Netflix show. I watched it and sobbed for like the last 3 episodes of the miniseries, so just prepare yourself. It is a beautiful love story, and I've had this forever. I got it on sale because it was torn at the bottom, but I never ended up reading it. And so after watching the miniseries, I was like, I want to read the memoir. It was also an early Reese's Book Club pick, but it's a great miniseries, so that's on my list. This year I read Mary Carr's book on writing memoir, and I adored it, so I was like, I should read her memoir. So I have The Liars Club. I believe this is her first memoir. She's written several, and she refers a lot to it in the book that I read, so of course I picked up a copy. Haven't read it yet, but I will in 2024. That's why it's on this list. I'm trying to put into this video a lot of positive, successful energy so that I will, in fact, read all of these. Oh my goodness. Okay. Next up is Two Trees Make a Forest, In Search of My Family's Past Among Taiwan's Mountains and Coasts by Jessica J. Lee. I know of this book because one of my co-hosts on Reading Women talked about this book, and we did a whole, I think it has a theme on nature writing, and so this is a beautiful work of nature writing. It's also from Catapult, which Counterpoint. It's part of a great indie publisher that puts out a lot of stunning books that I have really enjoyed. I think it's Catapult. I digress. This book has been on my TBR for probably 3 years. Like my side of the couch TBR, it's been sitting there for a couple years. And this is High on the Hog, A Culinary Journey from Africa to America by Jessica B. Harris. This has now been turned into a Netflix series. Season 2 just came out, and I'm so excited for this. We lived in the Low Country when I picked this up, and that is around where a lot of African-American cultural centers are, particularly around food, and so I was so excited for this. My spouse has already listened to this. I got the audiobook, and he was like, oh, I see this audiobook in our account, and he just listened to it and loved it. So I really need to finally read this book. I also love books about food. A book that was recommended to me by the teacher of the class I took this summer, Emma Copley-Eisenberg. She recommended Natasha Trethewey's Memorial Drive. So Natasha Trethewey was a girl when her stepfather killed her mother, and this is like her processing of that, from my understanding. Trethewey is a poet, and so I love prose written by poets. They just are so precise in their word choice, so I'm excited to jump into this one. So one of the most famous Appalachian people ever is Bell Hooks, and she wrote a lot of things. One I haven't read yet is Ain't I a Woman? Black Women in Feminism. I read via audio, and so a lot of her backlist is now coming into audio since she passed away. And so I have this, and I think it's A Moment of Belonging, and A Moment of Belonging is her essays about Appalachia. This is on my list for 2024. So I had High on the Hog a few books earlier. Another book by Jessica B. Harris is My Soul Looks Back. It's supposed to be an incredible memoir of hers, so I thought this seemed like to be the year to read them both. I picked this up when I was looking into her work when I watched High on the Hog on Netflix, and so I bought them both. I was like, I'll buy both of her works. Why not? So if you have watched my channel since the beginning, you will know that I have a very complex, one-sided relationship with Leslie Jamison, and this is Make It Scream, Make It Burn. I think that Leslie Jamison is an incredible prose stylist. The way that she writes is so incredibly fascinating. I cannot, like, I'll read a sentence and I'm like, how on earth did you write this? But my problem a lot with her essays are that she has a lot of privilege that she just doesn't acknowledge. She does these pieces on marginalized communities or various kinds, and doesn't really acknowledge that she's kind of exploiting them sometimes. Like, there's also a lot of stuff going on in her collections, but she's so talented. So I still read all of her stuff, and I just sit here and like feel complex emotions when I read her books. So I've been putting this off. She has another book coming out in 2024. So I was like, you know what? I need to read her last essay collection. So here I am doing just that. Last but certainly not least is this original hardback edition of Zadie Smith's Changing My Mind, Occasional Essays. I love Zadie Smith, but I have never read a full-length essay collection of hers. I have 2 of them. I need to read them. She's one of the authors I read, like, I read White Teeth, I think, and as soon as I read it, I bought all of her things. But of course, I can't just buy her books. I had to find the original hardcover edition of her books because I am me, an extra. So I'm going to read this finally. I won't be the only time you see Zadie Smith on this list. That is just the nonfiction. Let's see if I can go through the fiction a little faster. Okay, so this book, first fiction book, is Rachel Hang's Suicide Club. I don't remember the entire plot or summary of this book. I think friends make a suicide pact, but I'm not sure. I remember Russell at Ink or Paper Blog talking about this book a lot. And I don't know why I didn't read it then. I think maybe the audiobook was delayed. I can't remember. There's an audiobook now. So this is one of the fiction books on my list. Next up is another book that I've had on my list for ages. This is Lauren Groff's Delicate Edible Birds. I have read most of Lauren Groff's books. This is one of, I think, 3 that I have yet to read, including her new one. I've enjoyed almost all of her books, so I'm very excited to finally get to this one. A book that I haven't gotten to yet, I don't know why. I don't know why. Who knows? This is The Friend by Sigrid Nunez, and Sigrid Nunez has a new book out called The Vulnerables, and I was reminded I have this somewhere on my TBR shelf. I found it, and here it is. We are going to read this in 2024. A woman inherits a friend's Great Dane after her friend passes, and I think the dog does die in the end, so that's probably why I have been putting this off. A book that this was one of the first book festivals I ever went, and I went and saw Caitlin Greenidge, and she wrote We Love You, Charlie Freeman. So a chimpanzee is abandoned by his mother, and he goes to live with this family. And so Charlie is the chimpanzee. I don't know if you remember, but in the 90s, there were a ton of chimpanzee, like, family movies, and I don't really like apes a lot. They're not my favorite, so I don't really read a lot about them. It's Caitlin Greenidge. I enjoyed her other book, so I'm going to go back and read her debut. So a book that I have been looking forward to reading ever since it, came into the house, that is To Keep the Sin Alive by Rabia Ghaffari. This was another book that a co-host read for the Reading Women podcast at some point. I believe this is about the Iranian Revolution. I don't entirely know, but that is why this book is on the list. Thank goodness it has an audiobook. Oh my goodness. All right, so Appalachia, another author, I went and bought all of her books, but I've actually read most of them at this point. This is one of, I think, 2 or 3. She just came out with a new one. So yeah, at least 3 books of hers that I haven't read. This is Backlist. Obviously, this is Unaccustomed Earth, and this is a short story collection. No idea what they're about, but it's Appalachia. I will read it. When I joined BookTube back in January 1st, 2017, people were still talking about this book. And magical realism, what we probably now call fabulism or fantastical elements or whatever, but these otherworldly, almost magical-esque types of stories where unsettling things happen. This book was always mentioned, and this is A Guide to Being Born by Ramona Acebel. And this collection is supposed to be one of her best, if her not the best, book of hers. I have read one of her short story collections. I enjoyed it, but I found this one and I was like, you know what, we're gonna read this one as well and see what all the fuss is about. Now I will finally read it. Another darling that I haven't read, my spouse has read though. This is The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. And I found this original hardcover, but I've never read it. I don't think I've ever actually read Arundhati Roy because, is it Ministry of Unhappiness? I don't know. I'll put the cover here. I didn't read this one either. I just need to read Arundhati Roy. But this was the one, this is the book that put her on the map. So excited to get into that one. Zadie Smith, Grand Union short stories. I don't really need to say anything else. It's part of my ongoing attempt is to read all of Zadie Smith's books. So I have her short stories here. Now I hunted for this book in original hardcover for several years. I want to say at least 5 years. And the irony of this is that I found it, but I no longer remember what it's about. But I believe this is the one that won the Pulitzer Prize, and it's supposed to be like Americana, Iowa Farm situation. I read the series. I'll put the first book here. I think it's Some Luck or something. And this is her like series of a family over the course of a century, and every chapter is a different year. And there are 3 books in the series, and I adored it. That series got me through a lot of difficult times at the end of grad school, and I loved it. I love those books. So I looked up the books. The other book that she's most famous for, and this is 1,000 Acres. So finally gonna get to this one. Okay, 2 left. This video is far too long. This is The Wolf Border by Sarah Hall. I think this is where they're reintroducing wolves into the wild or something. I don't know. I just remember everyone in the UK talking about this book. I bought it, but then I never read it. So we're going to read it finally. I have, I think, more Sarah Hall books in my TBR behind me somewhere. But I really should just read it. This book, this is the last one. This is All the Birds in the Sky by Charlie Jane Anders. I think this one, I want to say a Nebula Award for Best Science Fiction Novel. This is by the trans author Charlie Jane Anders, who she came to an event here in the upstate a year or 2 before the pandemic, and I was able to meet her and she signed some of my books and it was all very exciting. But I've never read this book. It's been on my immediate TBR, like the TBR cart that's right near my couch. It's been on that cart for a few years, but it's signed, it's gorgeous. I need to read it, so that's why it's on this list. So those are the 24 books that I have for this particular challenge. Again, I'm going to wrap all of them up in wrapping paper. I won't be able to tell what they are, and I will forget what's in this list. I'm going to keep a list hidden somewhere just in case, but I am not going to remember what books I'm opening up. I will pick 2 every month, and then I'll read those. If I don't read them by the end of the month, theoretically I'm supposed to get rid of them. I am, again, including saves in case I get sick or something happens in my life. But these are all books I'm very much looking forward to, and they are all around the same range from like 250 to 450 pages with a few exceptions. So they should be within that range. But yeah, I am really excited to start this project. This is one of many challenges I'm doing in 2024. So if you'd like to see all of those, I will include my 2024 reading plans playlist in the description box. But yeah, that's it for me for today. That's plenty. I will talk to you all later.